Okay, we're live. Hi, everybody. It is Interview Friday on Lunch Therapy. I didn't know Jared Leto was on the Fight Club, in the Fight Club. Here he is. Little GIF, animated GIF. We want him on the show. Yeah. So find him on Instagram. Send him a message. Cult of the Hummingbird. Let's get into this thing. Things are getting a little crazy. Okay, here we are. Friday. Interview Friday. Time for taking some deep breaths. And here we go. I'm going to take in a really deep breath here. I'm going to hold it. I'm going to let it out. Second deep breath. Come on, do this with me. Feel your feet on the floor. In through the nose. Let it out. Holy Pam Palmieri, where is Jared Leto? It's a good question. Yeah, Mary is on the Twitch. Yes. Make sure you follow. Make sure you subscribe. Okay, taking in another breath. Feeling it all the way in the back of my lungs. Holding it. Letting the oxygen go through my body. You sound like you're smoking a joint. We're getting high on our own supply. Let it go. You know, sometimes oxygen can be better. Better than marijuana or some other substances. Oxygen is all around us. It stimulates our body, makes us feel good. I feel better. Okay, so there's a lot going on here today. One of the things is Ed's amazing Liquid Light show is behind me, which is one of my favorites, one of my favorite backgrounds. This guy is just he's an artist. He's an artist. Jeff Lohman is having another trivia night next Friday, 7 p.m. I'm going to show you the trailer. Here we go. Let's get in there. Head rush. Yeah, I just got a head rush. Well, some oxygen going in. Okay, here's a trailer for Jeff Lohman's Trivia Night. Next Friday night, 7 p.m. I mean, that's going to be good, right? I mean, that is going to be fun. So anybody who wants to join in, Kvork 6, hit us up on Facebook, anywhere that you want to, send us a message. Lunch Therapy is a category. So if you've been watching Lunch Therapy, you're going to be ahead of the game. If you haven't, you got some catching up to do. Jeff is killing it with the damn video. He really is. All right, Twitch, you guys are invited. Anybody's invited, just hit us up on the, wherever you hit us up and let us know, and I'll add you to the invite. Yeah, it's going to be fun. And there's some swearing going on. It's so incredible. Gina is here. She's watching in a new way. She's watching on Periscope. I love it when people go out to the different social networks and grab us, bring us in. I love it when there's new viewers like Sakork 6. All right, we got to move on. Mary. We're bringing you in. Oh, that's one other thing that I want to say is if you come in and you're like, you're one person instead of two people, you get a bonus. You get like a bump, a 20% bump or something like that, because, when there's two people, it's kind of not fair because they're ganging up on you. So everyone is welcome. Again, there's lunch therapy t-shirts, joelmarshall.com. It's where you go for all your stuff. I love this. You need a loser. Mary, I want to address this. You're not going to lose because you're smart. You're super smart. And that is self-deprecating humor. Scott. Hopefully Scott is going to join us also next Friday for some trivia night. Ganell. He's saying, follow Joel. Yes, this is a cult. Yes, this is a cult. Hervé, hey, good to see you. All right, things are going, really well. And this is Interview Friday. I got my headphones on. We're going to interview a comedian out of Las Vegas, and she's good, really good person. I'm going to bring you guys into that. Here we go. Interview Friday. Linda Marcus Smith. Welcome. All right, everybody. Here we are today with Linda Marcus Smith. This is kind of a crossover episode. Linda is also interviewing people on the internet, and she is also a comedian. And today for Interview Friday, I'm interviewing an interviewer and also a comedian. Welcome to our show. We're so glad to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me on, Joel Marshall.
I have been, I don't know if you know this, but we met in Portland, Oregon at Harvey's Comedy Club.
I thought you looked and sounded so familiar.
Yeah, so we were there in that dark club, and I was doing some comedy there, and you came up to me and started talking to me, and you're just such a ray of and hope and such a great presence, such a great energy. I was like, who is this lady? And then it turns out like everybody seemed to know who you were. And it turns out you're a comedian. I kind of guessed that. I think that you're from Portland. Is that right?
Born and raised.
Born and raised in Portland. I'm from Seattle myself.
Oh my God. What part of Seattle?
I'm from Edmonds, Washington, which is a little north. Grew up there. I was not born there. I was actually born in Syracuse, New York, but we moved when I was 2 or 3. We moved out to the Pacific Northwest, which my parents are from Pittsburgh.
Wow.
And so coming out to the Pacific Northwest at that time was sort of like, people were like, what are you doing? You're going out there, you're going to live in a tent out in the woods.
Wow, yeah. How do you like it in Seattle?
Oh, Seattle's what, I'm
Edmonds.
a Seattle person. I'm a Seattle or an Edmonds person. So
yeah,
I love it. A lot of our viewers are from that area as well. So
hi, guys.
Hi, everybody. So how about you? Were you born and raised in Portland, or how did you?
Yes, Joel,
really?
And everybody here on, what is this, Friday lunch?
Interview Fridays, lunch
Interview
therapies.
Fridays,
Interview
yeah.
Fridays, yeah.
I was born in Portland, Oregon in 1951.
Wow.
So in 31 more years, I'll be an official antique. And I grew up in Portland in a really weird time. Before we were passive aggressive, we were really racist. But we don't talk about politics. It was a really nasty place to grow up in.
Was it really?
Yes.
It's funny. I always say that in my comedy that, I say, I come from Seattle, mm-hmm. and is the passive aggressive capital of the world. And I say that just because I feel that's true. And then people are like, yeah, that's true, And I guess Portland is probably like that as well.
Yeah, like the audiences, well, you've been to Harvey's. A lot of times the audiences will pay good money for a babysitter and dinner to sit in a booth and go, all right, make me laugh.
Yeah.
And it in a lot of ways, the passive aggressiveness permeates almost everything in Portland.
Wow.
For instance, my comedy, I've only been in comedy 6 years, but my comedy there did not fly. Not because it was dirty. I'm a clean comic. I'm straight as an arrow.
Mm-hmm.
So for that reason, it didn't fly. And I talk about the racist past of Portland just real
Really?
briefly. And I talk about the fact that, I'm a veteran with a brain injury and PTSD and been a single mom. And those are stories of my life. And it doesn't go over like it does in Vegas.
Mm. Is that
People
why
come
you
here
moved?
to laugh.
Is that why you moved to Vegas?
Yeah, I came on a visit in October.
Wow.
And I got to meet everybody behind the scenes at Laugh Factory. And I'm like, what am I doing in Portland?
I see. So you found, did you come to comedy kind of late in life?
Well, you've heard this 1,000 times. I was the class clown, always made people laugh.
Mm-hmm.
I even made a Buckingham Palace guard on duty laugh.
You did. That's like a goal of some people that's everybody's goal when they see those Buckingham Palace guards.
Yeah.
Try and make a face or something. You made him laugh.
Yeah. And
Do you know what you said?
I did.
Or did?
I did slapstick mime. I just imitated him right in front of him.
Oh my God. Wow.
Just walk back and forth like a soldier, like a toy soldier.
Huh. So did he get fired?
He might have gotten beheaded.
Is that what happens? Oh,
wow. I don't know.
So what made you start doing actual stand-up comedy where you get up on the stage and talk?
I am now 69 years young.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't start till I was 63 years of age. The only reason I started comedy was I went into banking. That was a long career, wound up getting married and having a child. She's now 43.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a time on March 13th, 2014, where she and I went our separate ways for God knows how long. Every day is like Groundhog Day. Mm-hmm. So it was a terrible split up between the two of us. And I don't know that she'll ever want me back in her life. It's a whole Oprah talk show thing.
Okay.
And so when that day happened, I really didn't want to live, but I didn't want to kill myself. So I called the local comedy club.
Next best thing.
Right. And I thought I'd hang out with other people who do want to kill. No, never mind.
So you called up your local comedy club and you said, what? I want to get on stage. You have an open mic. What was it?
I called up and I said, I want to learn comedy.
Yeah.
I don't want to live without my daughter in my life. So can you get me in there and teach me today? And instead of calling 1-800-273-TALK, they got me in at 2:00.
Okay. So they got, what do you mean? What was this called? 1-800?
They could have said just a minute and sent an ambulance to
I see.
Great jacket. Yeah.
So you came in to learn comedy, and who'd you learn from?
Rocky Osborne, shout out. He's in Southern California in Temecula, and he's still doing comedy. He's among one of the world's best comics, along with the likes of Dante Rushellelli and a few others. He's way up there in skills. He's been doing this probably 25 years.
He was in Portland at the time, and you took classes?
No. So we need to go through the trajectory of where I've lived in my life, because I was in Southern California at the time.
Oh, I see.
I'm born and raised in Portland. Went into the military in 73 to serve my country.
And what branch of the military were you in?
Army.
And you were in the Army, okay.
I counted money. That's all I did. While men were out serving and fighting Jane Fonda in Viet Nam. That's an old reference. If you don't get it, you can Google it. Well, men were fighting Jane Fonda. I was fighting men off in Germany because I was one woman among 2,000 men.
Wow. And where were you stationed in Germany?
Hanau. It's the Dunlop tires are from there, and the Grimm brothers.
Okay. So during the Vietnam War, you were stationed in Germany doing accounting for the war.
Correct.
Wow. And so how long did you do that?
3 years.
3 years. Well, did you consider yourself lucky that you weren't in Vietnam?
I did.
Were there women in Vietnam as well, besides?
There were, but not on the front lines like now. Nurses, or backup support kind of things, but not in battle. And, like throughout history, women have been in battle zones, but not in battle.
Did you enlist in the Army during the Vietnam War, or were you
I
draft?
lost my damn mind. Yes, I did.
Wow.
I joined during when men were getting drafted.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to travel. I
Mm-hmm.
had really bad missing teeth, and I wanted to see the world on somebody else's pocketbook. And so I went to the recruiter and I said, where are you located? Where are your posts or, branch? Where are you? Tell me where I would wind up. Would I be in the sticks or in a big city? Turns out the Army was the best choice for me because it was around the big cities. I'm a big city girl.
You are. Do you
Yeah.
consider Portland a big city?
In the fact that it has no, in the real scheme of things, it's not a New York, but it's certainly not like a little Coeur d'Alene or, something like it. Sorry if you're from Coeur d'Alene out there. It's bigger,
sure
but no, it's not
lots
the
of
biggest.
people talking, but comedians, that's what we do. We sometimes offend ourselves and other people, and they, usually people think it's funny.
Yeah, you would think so.
You can't be too careful. You're talking about Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Yeah.
Right? Yes.
Yeah. Portland is not that big
there.
of a city, but
yeah. Portland. So okay. So you went over to Germany.
I did.
You were
in
an accountant
73.
there for 3 years. Did people think you were crazy for enlisting in the Army during Vietnam?
My fellow comrades, who happened to be mostly men, they made the assumption that I was either a lesbian or a nymphomaniac. I got that question a lot. So that was the assumption in those days, because Gloria Allred's a little bit younger than me. We didn't have the Me Too movement that is out there now. And men could ask and say and do whatever they wanted. Yeah. But now, they did assume certain things, and I loved my country. I wanted to represent my country, travel, and get my teeth fixed.
Nice. And so you were there for 3 years, and then you came back?
Then I got married in the military, had a daughter, came back, raised her, got a divorce. It's better than suicide or homicide. I highly recommend it as the top choice there.
It's an alternative. That and stand-up comedy.
Yes. And if all else fails. Yeah.
Okay, so this is something we talk about on the show, and also, comedians. I'm interested in this because comedians, oftentimes people say that they're depressed. You're saying that some of them are suicidal. How do you keep your sunny attitude being a comedian?
I do a lot with myself when I'm alone, and I don't mean that in a Pornhub kind of way. I mean that when I'm home alone, I'm always trying to stay in touch with the little girl before the little girl was abused or hurt. I want to project the innocence of my childhood before my innocence was taken away. So we all have bad days where you just want to yell at a cockroach, you want to take it out on somebody that can't defend themselves. We all have days like that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, that's where I'm coming from. I want to, like when you met me, I want to exude love, hope, happiness. I want to live it. I don't want to preach it. I just want to be it. You
really do. I have been jumping into some of your interviews on the internet. And first of all, I was like, when we got kind of locked down, I started doing live streaming because I was doing stand-up comedy, and that was, something I feel like I have to do because I just enjoy it so much. And it's also challenging and creative. And all of a sudden I knew, we're not gonna be doing this. So I started doing it online, and that's kind of evolved into this show.
Same with me.
I see you out there, and I'm like, oh, there's somebody out there doing what I'm doing. And I'm really interested in it. And you're doing it in a very prolific way. I mean,
how so?
Well, I just see like, oh, she's doing a live interview. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, she's doing another live interview. And then she's doing another one and another one. And then the other day there you were with Sinbad on there. And I was like, wow, Sinbad. And so I see it developing, and I see you developing as an interviewer, because I just pop in, like people are popping into this show, just pop in for a second, check in with you, listen to some of the things that people have to say. And I saw an interview, don't even know who you were interviewing. It said on the screen, but I just didn't know the guy. People in the comments were saying, wow, this guy's really, one of my favorite comedians. The guy was periodically getting extremely emotionally activated. He was crying, but I mean, in a good kind of way. Like it was sort of a cathartic sort of like, you know, like I say, laugh therapy. It felt like a kind of therapeutic thing for him. I'm not sure who this guy was. He said that he had been a musician, and then he had a 30-year career as a musician, a 30-year career as a comedian, and now he was looking at what the next thing was.
And his name was Warren Durso.
Warren Durso. Okay, so I'm like, wow, this person is really like tapping into people and really sharing it with other people. And I think that's one of the great things about interviewing.
I had another person break down and cry, and that was Steve Marshall.
Really?
He's quite the big thing in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And he, at the end of the interview, he said, "You're just so sweet."
You are sweet. And don't you think that it's sort of the comedian's job to be as personal as possible?
Oh, sorry, I thought I forgot to hit record, but you're doing this. I was like, oh my God.
That's the hard thing about interviewing, right? Like you're now being interviewed.
Yeah.
And it's a different thing, right?
Yes, like, am I comfortable in my own skin? I don't remember.
Right. Am I really going to talk about myself? And you're not in control of it necessarily either. Like
that's right.
Recording. So it's just
like driving blindfolded.
Yeah. Yeah. So I am recording. So
good.
It's cool.
But this is dope.
I want to know, how personal do you think a comedian should be? And do you think that it's the job of a comedian to be as personal as possible?
During an interview, in life, on stage?
On stage.
On stage?
Yeah.
Well, the pendulum keeps swinging around. You know, if you've been 69 years old like me, mm-hmm. you see that coffee is good for you, bad for you, good for you, bad for you. So many times you just like, screw it, I'm addicted. But with comics, the pendulum is swinging right as of late that you're supposed to be very personable, talking from your own stories and unravel any mystery and not hide behind a guitar, mm-hmm. not, hide behind your jokes. You're supposed to be like, oh my God, it's people out there. Wait until you hear everything about me. And it's got them in the uncomfortable zone.
Don't you think, from what you said, you probably do think this, but I'm going to ask you, different audiences expect different things?
Absolutely. And comics expect different things from each other. And don't even get me started about the world.
You can't listen
arguing about everything.
You can't even listen to other comics about how you should be because they're all going to tell you should be a different way. I almost feel like as a comic, you should have like different personas. Like, oh, here I'm the joke telling persona because this is the kind of place where you like when I went up to Harvey's, it seemed like that was like a place where they wanted to hear like a bunch of jokes, like, and they had to be really funny, and you had to have like a whole bunch of jokes, one after another. And and I didn't expect that because I thought Portland, I grew up in Seattle. It's very liberal, very touchy-feely, about feelings and that kind of stuff. And this place felt like a redneck bar to me.
Absolutely.
It felt like, like there was people like sitting there going, okay, fine. Like you said, I got my babysitter, now make me laugh.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, so now that's a different kind of comedy. It's a different kind of comedy. So so do you feel like that as a comedian, you almost have to have a tool belt of a lot of different things, a lot of different styles?
Yes.
You might go into some other place to tell jokes and they're like, oh, he's telling dad jokes. You know?
At Harvey's, they're very cautious. For instance, the owners are very cautious to put a host up as a feature. Or if you've hosted in the past, you might not get put on to host again, or not because of you, because they're afraid of their audiences not being happy. All it takes is a couple complaints, or if they walk by when a couple jokes are bombing, then,
Well, they gave me a hard time because I talked about serial killers. I had a bunch of jokes where I say, and it's one of my best routines, is talking about serial killers. And they came after me at the end and they were like, you can't talk about it. Because I guess the owners are ex-cops. And they said, we were tracing down one of those serial killers and it's not funny. And they had decided that it wasn't funny. And it's not, it's very light and goofy, my serial killer bit. But it was like, whoa, it was a real lesson for me. Because then I had to switch it up. And they were like, tell
Sure.
jokes about the Portland Trailblazers and things
But
like
did
that.
the jokes go over with the audience?
Yeah, well, they did, but I also did not understand what a host was, because this is my first time on the road. And I went up there and I was supposed to, I wasn't supposed to host. So I went up there and they put me on as a host. And I didn't know that the host comes out and is like, welcome everybody, here we are. We got a great show for you tonight. And we're going to have a drawing and we're going to do this and that. I didn't know that. So I came out on stage and just started doing my routine, which started out with me pretending that I was an Australian guy. And I just confused the hell out of them. And,
I remember that.
And I was kind of clawing my way back.
Yeah.
But then, you know, and I felt like I kind of got them back towards the end. And then those guys came after me after the show. And so on top of it, so it was a big moment for me. It was a big learning moment for me. I've talked about it on my show before. It was a big learning moment for me because I had to just be like, okay, suck it up. Let's go. Let's see what we can do. You know, and then I had to host the rest of the weekend. You know,
do you realize that you will get that kind of feedback when the owners are not trained comics?
Yes. Right.
Yeah. So I don't know that the feedback you got was valid in the real world outside of clubs that aren't owned that way.
Yeah. So luckily, Jimmy Shin, who had brought me up there, he backed me up and was like, Joel, you know, you just have him host the whole time. And so he just had me host the whole time. And I was like, you know, I was sort of, in the beginning, I was sort of like, well, maybe I should just leave. My parents were coming the next night. I was like, maybe I shouldn't tell my parents to come. And he was like, what are you talking about? This is part of being a comic. This is what it is, you know? And so I was just like, okay. So I hosted for the rest of the weekend. It got better and better. And I learned what it was to host. But this is the way we learn, you know? This is the way we learn. Sometimes we want to withdraw, though. And so I found that too with comedians in the lockdown. A lot of us, you know, didn't know what to do in the beginning. And so because, you know, all the clubs are closed. So how can you be a comedian? I see big comedians out there saying that, well, I can't do anything until this is over.
Yes.
And I see somebody like you just start doing this. And I'm like inspired by it. I'm inspired by it.
Thank you.
And I also see that you're inspiring these other comedians when you talk to them.
Thank you.
Was that your purpose? Do you have a purpose when you do this?
Mm-hmm. I'm quite vocal, so this isn't an exclusive answer here. Mm-hmm. I'm very vocal about it. When the pandemic hit, I got really depressed at the state of the world. And when I get really depressed, like I'll make 100 people in a day laugh and I won't stop until I get to 100 people. Mm-hmm. And when the pandemic hit, I knew I needed something really huge to hang on to give me hope. And so Zoom was out there and I thought, I wanted to test Zoom is all I wanted to do. So I said, hey, can anybody let me get on here and test Zoom? And I saw that the first person I got, a headliner, said that I could. She was so depressed. She didn't know it or say it or, you know, just you could see she was as bad off as I was before I zoomed in. When I zoomed in on her and got her on Zoom, it cheered me up to have some contact with a human. Mm-hmm. And I saw throughout the trajectory of me talking to her that without talking about being depressed about the world, her mood lifted. Yeah. And that's been the whole purpose behind all of this. Some people are on here to get famous, to get a Netflix special. Mm-hmm. I'm on here because if I'm depressed, there's others out there. And even if they're just have no money that makes them depressed or they need medicine, I want to cheer people up. I want to connect with them. I think when you're out for a pure reason, with no motive. Sure, if somebody says, you know, you're a great interviewer, could you come to this club and interview our comedians? That's what I did at Harvey's. I interviewed 39 headliners. Mm. So I'm not new at this, but I had thought that was my past and it would never happen in Vegas. And then by accident, I tripped into it. Mm.
And so do you think that interviews are cathartic?
They are. They're cathartic for I've had 3 people on here. If you went through every interview, you'd know who I'm talking about. But I've had 3 people who I would say were severely saddened by the stage of the world before we talked. Mm-hmm. And by I was raised around people that survived the Holocaust. Mm. And my goal in my family was to make my parents be in the moment and laugh. Mm-hmm. So I don't care how depressed you are. That's going to make me just go. I can't do comedy just because someone's at a club wanting to get drunk. Sorry, can't do it. But if I know you're depressed, I'm coming out swinging now.
That's nice. Do you make yourself a mission statement for your life? Do you ever do that?
I have never sat down and had a mission statement for my life. Never.
One of the things that I'm interested in with you also is the Las Vegas comedy scene.
Okay.
Moving to Las Vegas, what is that comedy scene like? There are comedians that are just perpetually headlining every single night or several times a night. Do you know some of these comedians? Do you do this? Do you work in the clubs there in when it's open in Las Vegas? And what is that experience like?
Well, in Vegas, you have many people who have done comedy since the comedy boom in the 80s. Mm-hmm. If I had to guess, I would say that I've met and interviewed, half of the people I've interviewed have 30 years of experience or more. Mm. But you don't know it. And a lot of them live here in Vegas.
And what do you mean?
And they're humble and they're humbling to talk to. Mm-hmm. Once you get them to feel comfortable to open up and tell you they were on the road with Harry Belafonte, Cher, Sam Kinison, Robin Williams. I mean, these people are everywhere in Vegas.
Really? And they probably have tons of material.
Yeah. And, then you've got people that are headlining with 2 years of experience, but the people with 20, 30, 40 years aren't getting the jobs. Then you've got the people at the mics that are trying to get the spots that are filled up by anybody 2 years to 40 years in the business. So there's a lot of frustration and competition. Mm-hmm. But, if you, again, back to the whole pure motive scenario.
Yeah.
If you come into a comedy scene or a comedy club with the motive to what can I give?
Yeah.
You'll receive.
Nice.
And I've just come into this scene to give, and that has wound me up on stage more than going and saying, "Hi, I'm new. Can I have a spot?" That's not going to work.
Sometimes you have to make yourself useful.
There you go.
And also sometimes you have to inform other people what your use is.
Exactly.
Because I find that a lot of people in the arts, they're kind of like, pick me, pick me, pick me, but they're not going, here's what I have to do. Here's what I do. And sometimes you just have to do it in order for people to see, oh, that's what they do.
Yeah, now I might be getting myself pigeonholed into interviewing for the rest of my life.
You might.
But you know what? I'm having so much fun. And comics are teaching me tricks. Because I'll throw in a question about if I get somebody like Sinbad, oh, hell yeah, I'm going to ask him a question about comedy, Mm-hmm.
So you mainly want to be a comedian, is that right? Or do you want to be an actor, or do you want to be an interviewer? What's your main goal?
Pre-pandemic, I just wanted to be a comedian. Mm-hmm. During and post-pandemic, it's 50-50 now. This took over a large part of my heart.
One of the things that I find is that you have to kind of, like I was saying, that thing about the mission statement, you kind of have to keep defining yourself, because for one thing, people keep seeing you in a different way and you have to keep informing them of who you are, but you also, the landscape shifts. So, what we're doing right now was not something that, we would probably be doing if it wasn't for what occurred. You have to kind of roll with the punches, and then you go, oh, what is this? And then you kind of just have to reinvent things as you go along, or at least listen to what it is and play into it rather than try and resist it and go, well, I can't do stand-up comedy anymore. I think I'll just roll up into a ball.
Exactly.
you know. So I appreciate what you're doing. I just see it happening. I see it growing. I see it getting better and better as well. One of the things I heard recently, they said, you know, if you're doing this kind of work, internet shows essentially, or YouTube or any of this kind of stuff, if you can get 1% better, if you can just look at your shows and like next show, try and get 1% better, your show will just grow astronomically. So that's kind of my goal, I guess.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Goal.
I learned something new about interviewing every time.
You do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was trained by one of the best interview persons in Portland, Oregon, which is, you know, like saying the best banana in a dumpster.
Portland's going to hate us after this interview.
They know how I feel.
So tell me then, what are some of the tips that you could tell me as an interviewer that I can learn to be a better interviewer? Because I also have learned as I've gone along and been like, yes, I see. But tell me.
I think whenever we invite somebody, they either know about it or they don't ahead of time. So we have to be professional in the invitation phase. Like the last thing you want to do is be a bait and switcher, where you're promising them a bill of goods and you can't deliver and you knew it, but you got the interview.
Yeah.
Second thing, a lot of my tips are pre-interview.
I like it. I would have never thought to look pre-interview for interview tips. Tell me more.
There are so many tips at pre-interview, you know, like everything you say when you find them, you know, find something you connect with them. If you're standing in front of me and you want to connect with me and you're a girl, for instance, you'd say, oh, what a cute dress. I haven't seen a dress with bows up there. I have bows on my shoulders, you guys. And see it. Yeah. Oh, you can see? Oh, you're not seeing.
Everybody can see us.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you didn't even know. That's great. Because now
this is amazing.
Self-aware at all. Yes, we see your bows.
And so, you know, like the only reason I got the Sinbad interview is two reasons. Number one, when Twitter first came out in 2003, 2004, the big wigs were actually talking to the nobody people like me. And so I was sending jokes to him and going, aren't I funny? Shouldn't I do comedy at some point? You know?
Yeah.
And he would say, that's good. That's good. He never said, boy, this is so boring. He was so nice, so patient. And then when the pandemic hit and I thought, yeah, I think I'll just keep doing interviews. I had no idea it was going to take off like it's taken off, you know, like it's taken off in a very like Portland way. Get a bus stop. Stops every once in a while, like today when I couldn't get on the internet. Yeah. But, you know, so, you know, so I asked him if he remembered me from Twitter. You know, I sent him a message on Instagram and he says, I do remember you. And I said, great. So I said, I'm doing these interviews. I've interviewed like 39 people at Harvey's and now I'm doing this to keep people cheered up. And could I interview you? He says, let's make it happen. Now you think right there, you made the sale. Yeah. You got him in the bag. Nope. It was 3 months later before he actually made good on that promise. But two things happened in those 3 months. I was persistently nice. So persistence and nice. So I would send him a heart 1 week and maybe 3-4 days later say, hope you're having a good day, you know? And then maybe once, twice in there, I said, when can we make this happen? Or how about Thursday? And then I got kind of a little bit aggressive towards the end because I was getting frustrated, but I wanted to be nice. So I said, how about 15 minutes? Nothing. Cue the crickets. So a few days later, come on, how about 10 minutes? Yeah. I talked myself down. You did. To 2 minutes with him. At the end, I said, listen, any day, anytime, I'll juggle you in 2 minutes max. And that's when he said, here's my personal assistant, send her a thingamajig and she'll set up the time. When I came down to 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Mm-hmm. That's what the agreement.
2 minutes. What is this? TikTok or something?
Yeah.
Snapchat.
Yeah. Totally. And then he stayed on for 41 minutes.
Of course, because nobody's going to want to just talk for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And also, you're an engaging interviewer, and he probably has a lot to say. I know he has a lot to say because I listened to your interview with him. He definitely has a lot to say. A very interesting person. Seems like a good guy.
Yeah. So I have a brain injury from a drunk driver.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you mentioned that. I want to hear about it.
Yeah, I got hit by a drunk driver in 1996 and had to retrain myself because it wasn't bad enough for the VA to send me to any kind of physical, mental therapy. Mm-hmm. So my comedy's, I'm 6 years in and I'm barely at the point where I know, I get it. I look like, I'm barely there. I have a charming personality. People love me and they love to laugh at things I say because I'm quirky.
Yeah.
But is my material and my delivery that great yet? Yeah, I got a ways to still go.
And what are you doing to train yourself?
Well, your brain will repair itself. Uh-huh. But I used to go on stage with something 5 times as big as this, mm-hmm. with notes.
Yeah.
And now I won't go on stage unless I have it memorized. Mm. So I'm not using excuses anymore.
Well, I find that the brain is very plastic, and the more you use it, it's just like a muscle. The more you use it, the better it gets.
Yeah.
Regardless of brain injury or whatever.
Yeah.
The better you treat it and the more you use it, the better it gets, which I'm sure you know.
Yes.
All right. So I think we're running out of time, but this has been a really nice interview. And I really appreciate you coming on my show.
You're going to just leave me with a brain injury? Yeah, like all the others?
Yeah, I'm going to leave you hanging with a brain injury. No, why? Did you want to give us an inspiring anecdote? Give us another inspiring anecdote.
Well, I tell a lot of brain injury jokes. My favorite one to say, because it shocks people, is I like to say, I got hit by a drunk driver in 1996, so bottoms up.
Okay.
It's quirky.
That is quirky. I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. I'm leaving you with a brain injury, but I don't believe that you have one anymore.
Thank you. I'll go with that.
Let's go with that, right?
All right.
I mean, we all have a little bit of brain damage, right?
Yes. All of us in the 50s were dropped on our head.
Yeah. I fell off my bike one time, smashed my head on the ground. It's not like I went and got an x-ray. Who knows what happened? All right. Well, okay, Linda. So this has been Linda Marcus Smith. She's a comedian. She's in Las Vegas. She has a show that is happening. What is your YouTube channel?
It's comedian Linda Marcus Smith. 3 names. Comedian Linda Marcus Smith.
And you can also find her on Facebook and any place else that people want to find you. On Facebook, it's great because they just pop up and there they are interviewing. You just jump in there and listen to them for a little while, say some stuff. Yeah. You use TikTok?
I use TikTok. I use Twitter. I was on MySpace with David Brent. David Brenner liked my jokes.
David Brenner was a great comedian, fantastic comedian.
Yes.
So that is a big plus to have him.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, that's super cool.
But the first time I sent him a joke, he told me it doesn't have a punchline. I was so devastated.
You said when was that?
That was when MySpace first came out.
90s?
I don't remember.
Maybe jokes still had punchlines back then. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. And
thank you, Joe Marshall.
Look forward to seeing more interviews out there.
Thank you.
And also more of your stand-up comedy and more punchlines.
Yeah, I need really strong punchlines to feel confident. I'm 69. I need rock solid stuff.
Especially when those Portland people are staring at you.
Yeah, I hope they come to Vegas and see me killing out here.
All right. So that was the incredible Linda Marcus Smith. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, because she's a powerhouse and inspirational. And thanks for everybody for joining us today. I've got, so we've got Jeff Lohman's Trivia Night coming up next Friday. Hit me up on Facebook. We'll put you in the group or whatever. Send me a message. So now we're going to have dance party, or not dance party, our musical interlude at the end. Dance break. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. I need a thigh master for my brain. Just putting a few of the comments here. Yeah, I want to be there. I'm there, actually. I'm there. Come on, Sue. Come on in. The water's fine. All right, so now we're going to take a dance break, and I will see you next week for more fun. Watch The Princess Bride. That's what we're doing. We're watching The Princess Bride. Thank you, Mary. I love it that you're in the Twitch room. We need more people in the Twitch room because we need more followers, because then more followers begets more followers in the Twitch. So it's dance break time. Here we go. It is a mantra, beautiful mantra. And looking back at some of the animals that we've enjoyed this week. Quite a week.